This is Professor Pete Alexander with the Winning at Business and Life podcast, where business leaders share their insights. It is 6 questions in 7 minutes because successful business leaders are busy and rarely have more time to spare. So let's get to it. Question number 1. In a few sentences, please tell me who you are and what you do.
I'm Tom Libelt, and I have been in the business world in some way or the other since I was 12. So, yeah, I mean, I've had my own jobs too along the way, but it's mostly been business. Like I've been in and out. The only time I really got a job was when I was like either confused or trying to gain a skill, like a sales skill, So that's the only ventures I've ever had in the actual job world.
Excellent. And so what are you currently doing?
So at the moment we have a marketing company, but what we've done is we niche down into online courses. So we market online courses specifically, and everything else we don't touch. So very niche, but it makes life easier.
I like it. So that's great. Question number 2. What's the best thing about working in your industry?
It's the industry itself. If you can get an online course done right when it's selling, it's like the perfect business model. No overhead, virtually, no fulfillment, very scalable, having a small team, it like ticks all the boxes for us. So we really like it.
Yeah, I can see that too. And it's very expandable too, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's why the scaling part, if you can sell one, the difference between selling 1 and 100, it's just a sales process. It's not really, like I said, no fulfillment, no inventory, overhead extra coming in. It's just selling, so like we really like it. It's a great business model.
Excellent. Question number 3. I have a book with all the answers for business. What chapter would you think most companies should read?
Well, things change. Know how to start over. That's the chapter, be opportunistic in some ways. And like people call it pivots, but it's really, sometimes you're going along a path and, something opens up. And I'm not saying like the green grass on the other side, because that's usually a horrible idea. That's like getting on a different bus and starting over. I'm saying like, if you're heading down the path and you see an opportunity in your industry that you're ready for, because you've been working at it for a long time, and, things are changing, you're seeing, there's, probably, like if you have a service business, maybe it's better to go into the information product or a app or anything. Knowing how to start over and taking that next step where you can really, grow your business. Like I've done it multiple times, and you can call it pivots, but for me, it was more, just knowing how to start over again from a better spot.
I like that. That's pretty insightful. Question number 4. Other than generic work harder, have a great attitude, and care for the customers, what advice or insight would you like to give to other business leaders?
Well, there's 2 things, right? Because, you specialize in like stress and things like that. And the way to minimize stress is keeping your team small, right? And keeping your schedule open. And I know, we've been hearing a lot about scaling, growing, like the first question a lot of people ask is how many people on your team? And I'm like, well, 5 too many, if I have 5, or if it's 20, it's 20 too many. Like, I think the less employees, the less problems, less headaches, more profits, less time being consumed, less babysitting, because it's not just customers, it's also employees doing the same thing. And keeping the schedule open, like it's super important. Like, how are you going to find a new opportunity if you're always busy working in your business? How do you take the time to think? How do you take the time to relax? It's like those 2 things, since I've really started kind of following them, changed everything for me. Like I don't work that many hours now, have more profit than ever before in my team. Even now, still a couple people too many because I still have a couple. But, it's like I need them, But if you ever told me like, oh, let's grow 100 people company, like, no, I'm good. You do that, I'll probably have more time and money without, like doing it my way. So, yeah, that's the one thing I would think about, as advice, which is like counter what everyone's saying.
It's interesting too, because as you're sharing that insight, I think about what I do as well. As I block time in my calendar, just like it would be for an appointment or a customer call, etc. I block time in my calendar for good thinking time or something that I want to do personally. Is that how you work it with your schedule as well?
Well, I just try to not really block anything in other than like interviews like this, or,
Uh-huh,
when I have to speak with clients, which I'm also trying to get rid of clients as much as possible.
uh-huh,
Have things where like it sells by itself and I just have someone doing customer service. But other than that, yeah, I will, have this big open space and then plan like this day I'm going to do thinking, this day I'm going to have some playtime.
uh-huh,
If you don't schedule in some ways, for me, it just means open calendar.
uh-huh,
It doesn't happen. Right? Like if I don't
uh-huh.
say like, okay, Saturday we're going to have fun and whatever that means, go by the pool, this, if I don't actually think of it, it doesn't happen. I'm going to start thinking about work again.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, scheduling it would be probably smarter. I think Noah Kagan from AppSumo,
Uh-huh.
he posted his calendar on Twitter recently, and he schedules dates, thinking, learning, um, playtime, camping, hobbies, gym. Like you can see like everything's color coded. And then I looked at it, I was like, first I just thought you have really weird hobbies. But then the second thing was, I was like, this is really smart because if he just looks at it, he's like, okay, this is my day, and then like it's color coded so you kind of know visually, how much work you're going to do and how much everything else. But I would recommend people to check that out. It's on Noah Kagan's Twitter feed.
Great. I'll check it out too. I'm curious. Question number 5. What other business leader like yourself would you like to acknowledge and invite to be on my podcast?
Well, as we mentioned before the show, they got to be good on video, right? So when I think of that, John Lawson, been in e-commerce for a long time, been doing public speaking, like a lot of things, mastermind, but he's a really good friend. That's someone I talk with when I feel like having like a fun, business conversation. So I think he would be awesome for this.
Great. I'll reach out to John. Thank you for that referral. And question number 6, please tell me about your first job.
Well, my first job was when I was like, actually I was 7. So it was longer than since I was 10, 12. Okay. So what happened was we used to live in Poland. It was communist back then. And my dad used to smuggle in liquor to Germany and then smuggle back electronics and videos and all this stuff back to Poland.
Oh,
And
interesting.
my job was go to the soccer stadiums with him and push the product.
So having the cute little boy there to sweet little boy that's selling the product.
Yeah. So this is what happened. We had a lot of Russian vendors. And I gained a lot of street smarts because I was ripped off all the time as a kid. These Russians were ruthless. They would sell you a soccer ball without the rubber inside. If they seen you, looking at comic books and like you like pick this one up and kind of smile and look at other ones. When you pick it up again, it's double the price. Like you got hustled all the time. But with me, and it's one of these things like I've learned from internet marketing, especially back like 10, 15 years ago. And it was like, more scammy in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Have a picture of yourself with a kid and everyone trusts you, right? So I think my dad just thought like having the kid around and being like, oh yeah, this is a great video. People were like, well, the kid's not gonna lie. But I just didn't know anything. I was just like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, this VCR, yeah, we played on it. It was great. Like, just because he told me. But it was a fun job.
Sure
Yeah,
sounds like it. It sure sounds great story. Great story. I love it. So Tom, thank you so much for being on the show. How can people find you?
Best way is to go to Smart Brand Marketing. And that's where I have a podcast too. And it's, you can see my services and you can contact me. Like I'm really easy to find, but that's the best place.
Perfect. This is Professor Pete Alexander with the Winning at Business and Life podcast. For more insights and ideas, please go to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or iTunes and search for the Winning at Business and Life podcast. Thanks for listening.